The Marty and Laura Show is brought to you by Veterinary Village. With locations throughout Wisconsin, Veterinary Village is dedicated to enhancing the quality of animal and human lives today and into the future. All right, you guys, welcome. Welcome back to the Marty and Laura Show. I am Laura, and this, of course,
I'm Marty. I got it.
I remembered my
name.
Our lines, yay! And we're super excited you're here to join us today. And we're going to talk about, everybody's going on summer vacation. We had a episode a while back, dog is my co-pilot, right? And we've talked about all the kinds of things that are out there in the world, but there's some really specific, like late July, August things that happen out here in our world that can happen while you're on vacation with your pet. And we really want you to just kind of be aware and thinking about things like foxtails and blue-green algae and other things that lurk in the water, including if you're going down to the southeast, things like alligators. Like, don't let your pet go in the water at the golf course, stuff like that. So we're just we're doing a mishmash of things to think about on your summer vacation with your pet. So lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
Well, snakes. There's parts of the
Yes.
country that have poisonous snakes, and
100%.
if you're not aware of that, you haven't thought it through, your pet isn't aware of it, it can become a problem. There's actually snake aversion training classes that you can
Yes, there
give your
are.
dog
And
if
did
you
they take
live where
away the rattlesnake vaccine? Seems
I
like
don't
you
know
told
if
me
it's
they did.
gone. I've never ever had the opportunity to use it. When I
Mhm.
was in Arizona, it was before it existed because that was 45 years ago. And I know there was one for a while. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
But, sucking the venom out of your dog's leg
No,
is
with the
really not,
X and the thing. Don't
yeah,
do
no,
that.
it's
Please
no
don't do
fun.
that. Please don't do
Don't,
that. Don't.
just avoid the rattlesnakes, just think about the alligators, the rattlesnakes, the stuff. We're in Wisconsin, so we don't have poisonous snakes, but we have lots and lots and lots of lakes. We actually have more lakes in Wisconsin than the land of 10,000 lakes known as Minnesota. So
Yes.
we have more than 10,000, just to let all the Minnesota people know we're way ahead of you. But
Throw down. Throw down with
yeah,
Minnesota.
but dogs love the water and they love walking into the water and running into the water. And so there may be things in the water that you're unaware of, sticks and wires and stuff, because we have dogs that come out of the water with
Fish
injuries.
lures. Taking
Oh
a
yeah, fish
treble
lures.
hook out of a dog's foot.
Okay. My favorite fish hook story, I'll have to tell you this because it was pretty interesting. We see fish hooks periodically, not often.
Every
So
vet
if a
does.
fish hook happens to your dog, please cut the barb off and then pull it out. Don't try and yank the barb out. But we had a client that came in that had a treble hook caught in their dog's lip. They put the dog in the car, drove the dog to us, and by the time they got there, one of the treble hooks was in the dog's lip. A second one was attached to the seat belt. So now I had to detach the dog from the seat belt so that I could detach the dog from the treble hook. So, if you have a treble hook stuck in your dog, the
Mm.
first thing to do is cut the other hooks off with a wire cutter, have a pair of pliers, cut the
If
other
you're
piece
going
of the hook off.
fishing, have a pair of pliers. This is required. Come on, you guys, you know
Yes.
this.
And there's actually a technique to use that you can use a fishing line and you can use it on the treble hook or on the hook to back it out. I have never figured it out. I always push it
Have
through
a
and just
pair of
cut it off. But
pliers. Just
yeah,
freaking cut
a,
the
a pair of
Barbie
pliers with
parts
a wire
off and yeah,
cutter on
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
So don't go fishing unprepared.
No. Don't go anywhere unprepared. So Marty and I have an entire first aid seminar. We've mentioned this to you before. It's on Vimeo. We're going to be moving it to a new platform here shortly, but you can find K9 911 the first aid seminar on Vimeo. If you go to the Pure Dog Talk website, it's got a link to it. But they're just be prepared. Like the Boy Scouts weren't wrong, right? A little
Exactly.
vet wrap and a pair of pliers will get you a long way in this world.
Okay, saran wrap one of the most important things you can travel with, I know this sounds crazy, but Saran wrap, you can cover wounds, you can fix open things that have happened to your dogs. It's a thing. And so travel with
It's the thing.
your first aid kit, including your roll of Saran wrap. And
I
remember,
poop bags
remember,
and vet wrap. Those are
yeah,
my go-tos. You can
exactly.
fix a lot of things with those.
But if you've never noticed on the ends of the box of Saran wrap, wax paper, aluminum foil, whatever it happens to be, on the ends of all of those boxes are little C-shaped perforated cutouts that
Mhm.
if you push those in, which is what you're supposed to do when you open a new box of foil, Saran wrap, wax paper, whatever it happens to be, that holds the roll into the box so that when you pull out the roll, the stuff off the roll doesn't fall off
Mhm.
the out of the
Right.
box and roll across the
Right.
floor.
Right.
So just if you've never noticed that before, this is my little tip to you for tonight.
Because this has nothing to do with veterinary medicine,
It
but
has
it's
nothing to
cool.
do with it.
Um, okay. So regionally around the country, foxtails here in the west, alligators in the southeast, poisonous snakes in the southwest, blue-green algae, lots and
Everywhere.
lots of places. So I'm gonna start with foxtails. My
Sure.
kid had a foxtail. She had her dog's whole entire pad cut open. She did a foxtail. I mean,
Mhm.
they're out there. Um, talk to it. The thing about foxtails, and I think people who are often in the outdoors understand. People who
Yes.
are randomly or occasionally in the outdoors maybe don't understand. I know of dogs who inhaled foxtails and lost a lung
Or died.
or died. Well, both actually. I foxtails can do more than make your dog lame.
Right.
Um, if your dog is doing this constant sneezing, it has a foxtail up its nose. You need to have someone take it out. If your
Mhm.
dog cannot quit shaking its head, it has a foxtail in its ear. You need to have
Mhm.
your dog seen.
Right. If there's a draining wound, be on the foot, under the belly, any of those things,
Mm.
they're foxtails. I was in California long enough to have seen at least one foxtail a week, not uncommon. There's actually an amazing website. This is probably
Mm-mm.
something you don't know, Laura, called Mean Seeds. Do you know the website Mean Seeds?
No, I think you may have mentioned it too. We're gonna link it on this
Probably.
episode.
So Mean, MEAN,
Mm.
Seeds, SEEDS, meanseeds.com. One of my clients
Yep.
actually wrote the website and
Oh
it
wow,
has,
that's
yeah,
cool. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
I know all the good people. So it's got this amazing website and it has lots of pictures of all the different kinds of
Mm.
native grasses that have the
Mm-hmm.
seeds
Mm-hmm.
associated with them that can cause uh, the n- the pyothorax, which is where they inhale when it goes down into their lung. It sets up housekeeping. It gets this nasty infection in a lung lobe or in the chest. You can see them in any body orifice, so nose, mouth, ear, prepuce, foot, anything like that. So
Vulva.
look at that website. Yeah, so go to the website called Mean Seeds, take a look at it, and
We'll link it.
probably yeah, link it and then have it on your phone. So if you're stopping someplace to hunt or you're stopping someplace to let your dog run, you take a look at the prairie grass that is
Mm.
in the area where you're stopping. And if it's got a picture of the mean seed on the mean seeds website, get back in the car. Don't
It is
go
the
there.
time of year. Here we are, July, August time. The grasses are dry. Foxtails are out of freaking control. And foxtails, I mean, there's so many seeds, and they all have the basic concept. They
Mm,
have barbed hooks in them, and the barbs keep the seed moving. It will move from the foot to the heart. It
mhm.
is so awful.
Yeah. So just take a look, pay attention, and like Laura said, if you have symptoms of something, don't ignore it. I mean, it's amazing to me what we pull out of dogs. I had a dog that didn't have a seed, but ended up with a stick in his nostril that
Oh my
was
god.
about 3.5 inches long. The client came
A
in, and it's one of
stick?
those clients that, yeah, the client it's the kind of client that likes to hang over my shoulder and watch everything that I'm doing, which makes it kind of fun and kind of interesting. He should have probably gone to vet school, but he didn't. And so he's standing in the room and he's saying the dog is really sneezing an awful lot. I'm like, okay, well, let's take a look. So I grab the otoscope. The otoscope, usually you put in the ear. I go to put it in the dog's nostril. I put it in one side, it goes in. The second side, I'm like, this is bad. So we sedate the dog, and I get a pair of alligator forceps, and I pull the stick out that, if it had been another half an inch longer, would have probably gone up into the dog's
Got into his
skull,
brain.
into
Yeah.
his brain. Yeah, past the cribriform plate and into the dog's brain. And he's like, oh, cool. Yeah, okay. It wasn't cool for your dog, but it felt really good to get it out of there. So sometimes there's some incredible things that you will find in these body parts.
I
It
had
it blows my
my
mind.
Bing dog taken in for because he wasn't really shaking his head, but he just like he was a little ADR, right? Veterinary talk ain't doing right. ADR. I'm like, can look in his ears, like he seems a little weird. She pulled out, I don't know, 6 foxtails per ear. The
Yeah,
dog barely even like shook his head. So
yeah,
that's a thing to remember. Our dogs can be super stoic. They
yeah,
may not show pain or discomfort or what have you. My friend's dog, that she literally opened the back of the dog's pad, he got up out of surgery and walked out like not even limping.
yeah.
So know your dog and know what's going on with it and be alert to those types of
Right.
things.
Right. So do pay attention, because they're trying to tell you something. And if both of your ears have 6 foxtails in them, maybe it hurts more to shake than not to shake.
It was bad. She's like, well, this eardrum's pierced. I'm like, well, I could explain why he doesn't listen very well. I
Listening and hearing are 2 different things.
don't know. Poor Bingle.
Doggett simplifies the puppy buying journey by connecting families with the perfect breed and responsible, health-verified breeders. They are the only breeder marketplace that verifies health clearances and responsible breeding practices. Through their personalized puppy matcher tool and matchmaker services, they educate and guide buyers every step of the way, ensuring a seamless process and a perfect match for their lifestyle. From initial breed consultation to introductions with top breeders, Doggett makes responsible puppy ownership easy and stress-free.
So foxtails, grass seeds, all bad. Talk
Yep.
to us about blue-green algae, because it happens out here on the West Coast, but it's less common because it is in still water. It is not in moving water. So talk to us
Most of the
about that.
time. Yeah, most of the time. And most of the time it's blue-green, but not always. So the basic rule of thumb is, if your dog gets into water where there is algae, it can be toxic. So, just pay attention. Try not to let them swim or go into water that doesn't look like it's safe. If they do, get them into the vet, at least give them a bath. You should have, this is where Dawn dish soap, those little commercials with the little ducks that get out into the water where the oil is. Dawn dish soap is an amazing piece of supply that you should
Yeah,
travel with, again, along with your
always.
saran wrap and your vet wrap.
Hydrogen
Um,
peroxide, Dawn dish soap, and yeah.
yeah, there's a few things to carry with you. So bath the dog really thoroughly. If they get
So
in oil, if they get in
describe for
blue-green
the
algae,
listeners
anything.
who may not be familiar. I know what this looks like, but you describe it. Blue-green algae in the water. How do you know the water looks bad? What is a reason not to send your dog into the water? In addition to the fact that it's I don't know, golf course in Florida where there might be an alligator.
Well, but blue-green algae isn't always blue-green.
Right.
So if there's algae, just don't. It seems obvious to me. Just don't let them swim, because it can be red. It can be other colors as well that are toxic. And there are usually alerts out. There'll oftentimes be signs on the beach, and if it says it's not safe for you to swim, take their word for it. Most of the
Your
time,
dog.
the county parks, the state parks, they'll have warnings up on their website. So, just do a little bit of reading ahead of time. Make sure that you're not going any place that's going to be dangerous, and common sense. Wait, common sense. Yeah,
I know.
let's
I
do
know.
some things that are
The
common sense.
thing that's sometimes a struggle. One of the things I wanted to mention, going back to the grass seeds and foxtails, and I kind of got distracted. We've
Really?
talked on this podcast. I know, right? Squirrels, not alligators, squirrels. We've talked on this podcast before sometimes about the cost of veterinary care and things that you
Yep.
can do, right? So foxtails, for those of us who live in foxtail land, 9, maybe 8 times out of 10, the foxtail goes in this little hoochie doochie in the foot, right between the toes. It goes
Mhm.
up in there, floats around for a while, causes the dog to be lame, makes a big red sore, comes out the bottom, comes out the table, whatever. And in most cases, and Marty's going to tell us where I'm wrong about this, but in most cases, warm Epsom salt soaks twice a day will solve that
Yep.
problem without ever going to the vet for about 20 cents a minute.
Yeah, that's a pretty helpful thing to do. But again, if you suspect
Mm.
something, sometimes waiting can be more expensive than not waiting. Because, like you said, some of these things can migrate into unbelievable places. I've seen them migrate through, you know, there was actually one that we had that it migrated through the pericardial sac and was pressing on the heart. It was a piece of stick, but it wasn't weed seed, but it was a piece of stick. And it was literally compressing the dog's heart. When the surgeon took the dog to surgery, and taking something out of the chest is a big deal. It's not something minor. There was a depression in the muscle of the heart because the stick had been pressing against the heart. So these are nasty things. If you think something's there, don't wait. Go in, have it checked out earlier rather than later, because it's actually going to save you money in the long run.
Okay, very good. Um, Foxtails, Badwater, alligators. You know, the other thing that we didn't talk about before we started that I think is an oversight on my part, skunks.
Oh, yeah. And
It's
porcupines.
the skunks and porcupines. OMG. It is the time of year.
Yes.
Let's start with skunks.
Yeah. Let's not start with skunks. Let's just try to prevent those.
We cannot
Okay. So
skip skunks.
first of all, have your dog current on rabies vaccinations, because if your dog comes across a skunk and they're not current, you're going to be in trouble. Secondly, the magic formula for getting rid of the smell of skunk is not tomato juice.
Wait. People, stop the recording right now. Go get your pen and your paper, and you're going to write this down because this matters in your life. If you have a dog that goes into the out of doors in the summer, go.
Which part? About mixing it? What to mix up?
Right.
Yes. So it's peroxide, baking soda, and 2 teaspoons of Dawn dish soap. Oh, we're back to Dawn dish soap again. So a pint
And
of
wait,
peroxide.
don't get the dog wet first.
Right. Right. Don't do that. You're going to regret it. And don't put the dog in your car, because your car will never smell good again. So you might have to drive really slowly with the leash hanging out the window as your dog jogs alongside of you. So it's a box of baking soda, a pint of peroxide, 2 tablespoons of dish soap, and you mix it all up. It will deodorize your dog the best you can, except for their eyes. You can't really do their eyes. And once you've mixed it up, plan on just using the whole batch, because if you try to put a cap on it, the peroxide and the baking soda foam up and they blow up the container. So don't try to store it. Don't be that person. So it's the best deodorizer that there is for skunk, or
only.
well, and there's other things it deodorizes too. I mean, you can use it for anal glands. You can use it for anything. It's a great deodorizer. Porcupines are a whole different conversation, and we do see those in northern Wisconsin. And we'll have dogs
Many
that come
parts of
in.
the country.
Yep, they'll be in their tongue, they'll be in their ears, they'll be in their throat, they'll be all these places, and your dog will need to be anesthetized. And we'll have a porcupine quill removing party that may take 2 hours with 3 people plucking quills out of the dog. They are nasty, and you can't always get them all. They're sort of like a weed seed. You try to get them all. Sometimes they're broken off, or they're hard to get rid of, and you'll have to like roll the skin to feel if you can find what there's a stiff part of the skin where there's a quill underneath it. These are not pleasant. So just don't let your dog get into these things.
Well,
The
okay.
other
All right,
thing,
Marty, let's just stop for a second. Let's just stop.
well, you can't.
The reality check is the old Chessie that we had when I was a kid growing up, Chesapeake Bay Retriever. She pulled raccoons out of trees. Like, she thought,
Yep.
killing
It was
and
recreation.
dispatching, it was like entertainment. And
Yeah.
she would come home this time of year, I don't know, weekly. And we'd have to lay her down on the kitchen floor and take a pair of pliers and pull all the, it's just nasty.
Yep.
So pay attention to where your dog is.
But there's a device, there's a hood for dogs called Outfoxed.
Mm,
It's a
yeah,
mesh
this is
hood.
great.
Yeah, it's a mesh hood. You can buy it on Amazon. They make different sizes. So you measure the length of your dog's nostril
Mhm,
to skull
mhm,
and you order the right size for the dog. And basically, it's like mosquito netting over the
mhm.
dog's head. It zips on. It attaches to their collar so they can run out there if they're a dog that gets into porcupines, a dog that inhales weed seeds, or they're in an area that it's dangerous. That's why it's called outfoxed, is it's for foxtails. If you have a dog that's just an incredibly naughty dog and eats all the stuff that they're not supposed to, whether it's poop or sticks or corn cobs or whatever, it's a really safe it's a great safety net to put on your dog because putting a muzzle on them and leaving them muzzled when they're outside is dangerous. They can't breathe, they can't cool
And
off, they can overheat, but they can with this outfox hood on it. It does look a little ridiculous, but I'll tell you, they can be just, I mean, it's going to save you thousands and thousands of dollars and maybe your dog's life. So just be aware that it's like those hoods, those hats
yeah,
that you can put on
yeah.
when you go in the woods if you want to keep the gnats and the biting insects and stuff off of your face, is it does the same thing so they can see through it, they can breathe through it, they can run around with it on. It may look stupid, but stupid is
I
better than
I
dead.
know a lot of guys that actually run dogs in those this time of year. If they're still trying to train, they're doing like enough to training. Like it gets to be hard heat and stuff. Like guys can't really run their
Yeah.
dogs, but if they're still trying, they a lot of the ones I know are running with this type of gear
Yeah.
because it keeps
Yeah.
foxtails out of the eyes, out of the nose, out of the ears. It keeps now I don't know. Do you know? Will it block a porky? The outfoxed?
I don't think the dog can grab the porky through it.
I know, but the
Um,
quills, can the quills get through it?
no,
Yeah, I don't know the
I
answer
don't
to
think
that.
so. I
Mm,
don't think they could. I don't think the dog could
that's a
buy
thing to
I
know.
I at least it's gonna probably save you from 90% of the quills. If
Mm,
it's not 100%,
mm,
it's gonna be a darn sight better than what you're dealing with right now.
mm,
So if you live where there's just gonna be those things happening, there's
mm,
only so much you can do to protect your dog.
mhm.
But for $50, you can buy an outfox hood, and that's literally just a lifesaver. If your dog is just naughty about getting into the garbage, I mean, let's face it, dogs do stuff that they're not supposed to all
Well,
the time.
that's a giant cone and some mouse traps. But the outfoxed hood is definitely, I think I had not thought of it from a porcupine because I mean porcupines are wherever there's trees, right? So we're here in Oregon.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
trees.
You have trees. Yep.
Um, okay, porkies, skunks, snakes, all the regions of the country have their own personal poisonous snakes. Know what poisonous snakes are in your area. Know the difference between a poisonous snake and a harmless one. I think that's kind of important.
Yeah.
I don't know, Marty. Are you the trainer of snake identification? I'm not that person.
No, but there's probably an app for that. There's an app for everything else. So I'm guessing, I mean, there's an app to identify a tick.
Mm,
So, like the Wisconsin tick
mhm.
identification, you just put a picture into the
There
tick and it
are,
helps you to
yeah.
identify it. So, there's plant identifiers. I'm sure there's an app for snake identification as well. I just don't happen to know what that
You,
is. But
you
if
live in a
nobody's written it yet,
non-snake country.
yeah. If it
We
hasn't been
have
written yet, you should write one.
okay, we'll keep that in mind. Um, Here in Western Oregon, not so much. Eastern Oregon, kind of in the mountains, we'll have rattlesnakes. Southeast, of course, copperheads. There's all kinds of options, even here in the U.S., other parts of the world, more. Um, Pay attention. Snakes can kill your dog, and the Xing over the venom and sucking out is not a thing. So treatment for a pet bitten by a snake out in the running amok in the wilderness, and you're an hour from the vet clinic, and go.
Yeah, probably ice is going to be your best thing to try and cut down on the circulation to the area. And then just get your dog to the vet as soon as you can. And if you're
Benadryl.
traveling, Benadryl probably isn't going to help because it's a toxin. It's not an allergic reaction.
Okay.
But anytime you travel with your dog, know where you're going, what sources of veterinary care you're going to have. So look it up ahead of time, know where your travel is going to take you. If you're staying someplace for a week or you're driving through or whatever. I had a dog a number of years ago that had a metronidazole toxicity. Very long conversation about this, but she had a
Wow.
metronidazole toxicity, and so she was staying in the middle of nowhere because she'd been a sled dog running with a team.
Mm.
And so we were looking on maps, trying to figure out where the following morning was going to be the closest Walgreens for her to get to pick up medication as an antidote for it. So, just sort of think ahead, be prepared, have your first aid kit, have all your pet's extra medications along, know what your veterinary choices are, because you may not be familiar with the area, and not every place has emergency clinics. Some clinics are 24 hours a day, but they may not see you because they don't know you, and they're not going to walk into the clinic in the middle of the night to see someone that they don't know, because that may not necessarily be safe for their staff. So,
Right.
you kind of have to think about the things that are happening around you. So again, being prepared is really an essential piece of all of this. So yeah, travel with your first aid kit, travel with your antidotes, travel with the stuff. Because that's gonna serve you well, and it should be for yourself and for your pets as well. So most of the time, the things you use are the same things that your pets can use,
Right.
except for ibuprofen. So
No
most of the stuff,
ibuprofen.
like, yeah,
Anti-venom, I don't know about, like some of the snakes in the southeast. I just don't know about them. I know anti-venom for rattlesnakes is a thing, but it's also very hard to find, and not every veterinary clinic has it in stock.
right.
And so, again, if you are going to snake country, if you are going to areas, so I'm going to tell a story on myself. It's a great story. That's not a great story, but it is not a great story.
Whoops.
I had two wire hair pointer puppies that I wanted to run in a NAVTA natural ability test. And it was when I was kind of in the midst of a bad breakup, and I was like, gonna do it myself. Blah, blah, blah. Right. And so I found a natural ability test in Wyoming. This is when I was living in Nebraska. And I'm like, great. And I got my little girls all trained up. I was so excited. And I drove my happy self out to Wyoming, drove into the trial grounds, and I'm driving, kind of looking, checking it out, right? Trying to see where you're going to run your dogs like it's a thing. And I hear all this gunfire that shouldn't be happening at that particular stage of the game. And I'm like, go back to the lodge where everybody's gathering. I'm like, gee, what was all that? Oh, they were just shooting the snakes on course. I'm like, oh my God, it's Wyoming. There's rattlesnakes here. Son of
Oh
I
no.
had not snake proofed my dogs because I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, and there were no rattlesnakes there, and I could train them all year long and never have to worry about it. And I was testing outside of, I can't remember, some part of central, like Green, I don't know, somewhere in Wyoming. And they definitely had rattlesnakes on course. And so I was, of course, hysterical because, you've met me. And I had not, as I said, I had not snake proofed my dogs. There are snake proof classes that you can teach your dogs. And I know a lot of people that are like, I don't want my dog to get an electric collar shock. And I'm like, well, it's better than dead. So, anyway, so I ran both of my dogs and called them off every time they looked like they were getting ready to be birdie, because I was afraid it was a snake and not a bird. So I didn't get very good scores. So, moral of the story is pay attention to where you're going and know if there's going to be bad things there, and prepare in advance for the bad things that might be there. That is the
Yeah.
moral of my story from hard won experience. That's what I
Yeah.
got.
Facebook is pretty helpful for things that you need to know. So yeah,
This
pay
was
attention to that.
pre-Facebook, man.
Of
This
course it
was
was.
back in the day. I was not really a Facebook kind of girl for a long time, and this was before that. So, anyway. All right, Marty, thank you very much for helping us think about the things that we need to think about when we're on the road for summer vacation. And
So we can have fun on our vacation.
yeah,
Fun.
and not be frantically worried about our dogs, fighting with a porcupine, getting sprayed by a skunk, or bitten by a snake, or a foxtail up the nose. Like, there's so many things to be all frantic about. But if you're prepared and you know what you're going, where you're going, and what you're going to encounter, you will be much calmer and your dog will be much happier, and so will you.
For sure. Have fun.
All right. Thanks a lot, Marty. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Marty and Laura Show. We're excited to bring you these unique, fun, fact-based conversations about pet health. We hope you'll join us on social. Stop by the website to sign up for an extra tip of the week for your pet. While you're at it, do us a favor, please, and leave a review wherever you find your podcasts. The Marty and Laura Show is produced by Pure Dog Talk, Inc., sound design and editing by Premium Audio Services.